Hello everyone, thanks for attending this Carton Network and Techability webinar. Really pleased today to have a presentation from Laura Allen, who's a Program Manager for Chrome Accessibility. But just before she gets started, a couple of quick plugs. If we've got any questions as we go along, you won't be able to use your microphones, I'm afraid, but please respond in the chat box. It should be at the bottom of your control panel. You can just type some questions in there and I'll be able to field them to Laura. Also, to just a little introduction to Techability. If you don't know about us, we're designed to support assistive technology for people with special educational needs and disabilities in both mainstream and specialist further education. If you don't work in specialist further education, that's no problem. We welcome all to our webinars, and hopefully the information will be just as interesting to you as it will to other people. Just to say as well, mention our Techability conference, which happens on the 21st of November in Birmingham. You might be pleased to hear that it's not London, but Birmingham's a little easier, should be a little easier to get to for those from the north. But we've got an exciting program lined up. All of our seminars at the conference and workshops are practice-based. They'll be presented by practitioners who are working in the field, and they can talk about how the technology makes a difference. So I'll just paste, just to show you the chat box works, just paste a link for you in the chat box to where you can register on the Techability conference. Feel free to do that. If you're a NatSpec member or a Carton Centre, then it's half price. Okay. Contact details for us, I'll put up again at the end, techability@natspec.org.uk. So without further ado, I'm just going to hand over to Laura, let her introduce herself, and she'll be able to take you through what she's got to talk about today. Just bear with me a sec, and we'll hand over to Laura.
All right. Hi, everyone. Are you able to see my screen now? Just confirming.
Yep, I can see.
Wonderful.
Your screen fine, thanks.
Okay, just going into present mode. And I'm going to go ahead and turn on the Google Slides closed captions feature, which will give us live captioning as we go through the presentation today. So yeah, thank you so much for having me. My name is Laura Allen, and I'm Program Manager for Accessibility across the Chrome and Chrome OS teams at Google. I'm really happy to be here with you all today and talk a bit about accessibility. So what we're going to do today, let's see, we'll start off with going over the different features that are built into Chromebooks that help to make a more accessible experience. Then I'll dive into additional Chrome extensions that you can add to further customize the experience. Then I'll share some anecdotes about leveraging G Suite apps for diverse learners in the classroom. Then I'll talk about where to learn more, different resources, and then of course take questions. All right, so we'll begin just by talking a bit about Chromebooks. And you know, accessibility is something that is very, very core to our mission at Google, to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. And we really, really take this to heart on the Chrome and Chrome OS teams, especially when it comes to the realm of education and trying to make our Chromebook devices really accessible and usable for all learners. And there are a lot of different accessibility features that our team builds that are just built into every Chromebook device, available right out of the box from the very first time that you set up your device. So I'd like to spend some time going through these different features. And we'll start with how to make things easier to see on the Chromebook. And I will just mention, I myself am low vision. I have a rare visual condition that basically impacts my central vision. And it makes things very difficult to read. I've got a tiny field of vision centrally that remains, that's about the size of 3 or so letters and then everything else is not there essentially. So I myself actually rely on a lot of these different features to make my day-to-day environment work well for me. And this is something that, you know, when I was back in school and my vision was fluctuating and changing, I didn't really have much assistive technology at the time. And it was kind of one of those situations where if you were in the classroom and, you know, everything was done on paper and you couldn't see the paper, then you were out of luck. Or if you couldn't read the board, then that was that. You just kind of missed the lesson. So it's just incredible to think about what a different phase we are in right now in the realm of education, and how so many students have devices right in front of them. And you know, they can use different features to further customize the experience and make sure that it is accessible for them. But it's not making them different having that device in front of them. You know, it's just you have the same device as everybody else, and you can just tweak it and use any of these different settings and just get the most out of your learning. So we definitely want to make sure to keep adding different sorts of features and functionalities, but let's get started going through the different ones that are built in. So to begin, to make content larger on the screen, there are a few different ways to do this. So first off, to increase the size of the browser content itself, you can press Control and the plus key. So if you just hold Control and keep pressing plus, you'll make that just the browser content larger and larger. You can press Control minus to decrease, or Control 0 to reset. If you want to make everything larger on the screen though, not just the browser content itself, you can add Shift into the mix. So if you press Control Shift plus, that'll make everything on the screen larger, including the tab strip, the Chrome tabs, as well as the icons on the lower portion of the screen, your app icons, your system area. So everything will get larger, or Control Shift minus will make everything smaller. And you can reset back to default at any time with Control Shift 0. But for a lot of people, this sort of adjusting display size or browser zoom is not quite large enough. So for many low vision users, you might need heavier levels of magnification. And for this, we support two different types of magnifiers on the Chromebook. These are both available in Chromebook accessibility settings, and these also happen to have keyboard shortcut toggles to turn them on and off. So the first one is the full screen magnifier. And again, you can turn it on through settings or through pressing Control Search M as a magnifier. And once this is on, the whole screen zooms in, and you can use the mouse cursor to basically pan around and control whatever is being shown. Or if you have a touchscreen Chromebook, you can use 2 fingers on the device to pan around on the touchscreen. So from there, you can actually increase the zoom level all the way up to 20x zoom. And you can do this in a few different ways. In the accessibility settings page, there is a drop-down where you can choose the specific level that works best for you. There are also 2 other ways that I actually even prefer more than going to settings, just because you can do them from anywhere on the device. Both of them involve holding down Control and Alt. And so 2 different methods. First method is holding Control and Alt and scrolling 2 fingers up or down on the touchpad. And another way is to hold down Control and Alt and press the brightness up key on the Chromebook, which is on the top row of keys. So again, you can find that right level of zoom that works best for you. So in addition to the full screen magnifier, we also have a docked magnifier. And I'll play a quick video of how this works. So basically, the docked magnifier will make the top 1/3 of the screen a magnified region. And then it resizes everything to fit into the bottom 2/3 of the screen. So from there, you can move your mouse cursor around that bottom portion and control whatever's being displayed in that top zoomed in region. And again, you can turn this on either in settings or through pressing Control Search D as in docked. And same sort of methods apply here in terms of increasing the zoom level or decreasing the zoom level all the way up to 20x. To give you a little context as well, we heard from a lot of users, we talked to a lot of magnification users, and just heard that for some individuals, the full screen magnifier can be a little bit tricky, just because, especially if you're using really large levels of zoom and a smaller Chromebook screen or just smaller screen in general, it can be difficult to keep panning around Some people may find that it may lead to a little bit of nausea or a little bit of eye strain. So we wanted to build something that would help to counterbalance that. So in this case, you're able to reduce the level of overall panning around with the docked magnifier, and you're also able to have a better sense of, okay, where are you on the screen? You know, am I on the top left corner of the screen, or am I kind of sort of in the middle? It's supposed to help to give a little bit more of that overall context. All right, so there's also an adjustable mouse cursor. Again, this can be found in accessibility settings on the Chromebook. And once you turn this on, a sliding scale appears underneath it, and you can choose the right size that works for you. And there's a high contrast mode, which will invert the colors on the screen, which can be particularly helpful if you are, you know, dealing with any sort of eye strain, or just find it to be more visible for you to invert those colors, especially if you are navigating a lot of pages or apps that have, you know, the traditional light theme in the background with dark text, and you would rather have the inverse. So again, this can be toggled in settings or through pressing the keyboard shortcut Control-Shift-H at any time. Great. We also have a feature that's called highlights. And this feature, we have 3 different highlights that you can turn on to try to draw better visibility for some of the key parts of the screen. So you can turn this on so that a focus ring appears around the mouse cursor, around the text caret as you're typing, or around the keyboard focused item as you're using the tab key or arrow keys to navigate around the page. So these will just basically draw a colorful ring or square around the given item. And then as you're moving, so in this example, you know, as you're typing or as you're moving the mouse cursor, that focus ring will appear. And then as soon as you stop motion, then it'll fade into the distance as to not add additional clutter to the screen. So really just there to help to draw greater visibility and focus. Great, so next we'll shift gears and talk a bit about features for improved motor interactions. So first, the Chromebook has an on-screen accessibility keyboard, which can be turned on through accessibility settings. And this is particularly useful for anyone for whom it's difficult or not possible to type on the physical keyboard. So this on-screen keyboard, basically when it's turned on, then anytime you put your text caret or your mouse cursor into a text entry field, this will appear in the lower portion of the screen. And from there, you can either use the mouse cursor, you could use the touchpad, you could use a connected joystick device, or even any sort of head tracking system that you're using to then input text that way. There's also a handwriting feature that's part of this on-screen keyboard if you choose. I know that I have a number of teammates who have repetitive stress injury who simply prefer to use the handwriting feature just to reduce a little bit of that strain day to day. And there's also a microphone icon that appears in the top right corner of the on-screen keyboard. So if you would like to use your voice to input text alongside the, you know, sometimes using voice, sometimes using typing on the on-screen keyboard, you could definitely leverage that microphone icon and dictate. There are also a number of different features you can use on the physical keyboard as well as the touchpad to make the experience more accessible. So on the touchpad, we've got a feature called tap to click, which is really simple and straightforward, but basically it just reduces the amount of pressure that you need to put on the touchpad or mouse to actually click. So it just allows you to lightly tap. Tap dragging goes hand in hand with tap to click, and similar concept where just basically if you wanted to, for example, rearrange your Chrome tabs or rearrange the app icons on the bottom shelf area, you could just very, very lightly double tap the given icon and then drag. So again, just reducing the amount of force that you need to push down on that touchpad. Automatic clicks goes one step further and makes it so that you don't actually have to put any force or any pressure on the touchpad or mouse. So basically when automatic clicks is on, you can hover over a given item and then a circle will appear and it kind of narrows in, and then the Chromebook will click for you. And I should mention that there are some pretty significant changes coming to automatic clicks over the next milestone or so, the next Chrome milestone. So it'll be rolling out over the summer. And just to give you a little bit of context, the current feature supports the ability to hover, set a given amount of time, and then it will just do a standard left click. But we're adding the ability to right click and double click and do a number of other functions so that you really have full capability without having to click and put pressure on the touchpad. So stay tuned for that, and we'd love your feedback as that rolls out to your devices. On the visible keyboard side of things, we support sticky keys, which this can be really useful if it's not possible or if it's not comfortable to hold down multiple keys at once when trying to do any sort of keyboard shortcut, or even something like capitalizing a letter. So for capitalizing a letter, if I was going to type my name, I would typically hold down Shift and press L to capitalize Laura. So if that wasn't possible to hold both those keys at once, I could use sticky keys and basically tap the Shift key, and then it would be sticky until I then released and then tapped the L key. So that's definitely useful just to reduce how many fingers you have to hold down on the keyboard at once. You can also adjust the keyboard repeat rate as well as the delay before repeating keys, so that if you are holding your finger down on the keys and it's basically typing out multiple keys of the same at once, you can dial that back, so it's only going to type that key once. Great. So I mentioned earlier that there is a microphone icon that appears in the on-screen keyboard, but we also have a standalone dictation feature, which allows you to use voice to input text into any text field. So you can turn this on in accessibility settings, and then when this is on, this microphone icon will appear in the lower right corner of the screen, down near where your time and battery are. So you can place your mouse into any text field, whether it's a URL bar or an email draft, and basically just either tap or click that icon, or press the keyboard command search plus D as in dictate, and just begin speaking. So we've heard a lot of questions. I know, Google Docs offers voice typing built into the Google Doc app, as well as there's voice typing for speaker notes in Google Slides. And we've received a lot of questions of, well, when is voice typing going to come to the body of a slide so that, students can actually just dictate to speak into the given slide. And we don't yet have any time frame from the G Suite team on when that might happen, but you can simply use the Chromebook feature, this dictation feature, to just simply dictate into the slide content itself now. Great. We also have a feature called mono audio, which can help to make content easier to hear on your Chromebook. So if you have perhaps limited hearing in one ear over another, this feature can be really helpful to help to streamline and balance the audio so it's playing the same audio through both ears and through both speakers. So this way you're not missing anything that's being played in stereo sound in one ear over the other. All right, so now I'd like to shift gears a little bit and talk about spoken feedback options on the Chromebook. So we've got two different versions of spoken feedback that you can leverage through accessibility settings on your Chromebook. And the first one is the Chromebox screen reader. And this is built in, and you can turn it on at any time, again, either through settings or through pressing the keyboard shortcut Control-Alt-Z as in zebra. And oops, let's go to the next slide. Okay. There have been a lot of different improvements over the past few years. So we had released the screen reader, the first version, back in 2011, and we took it a pretty far away and had met with a lot of different users who were using the screen reader, collected a great amount of feedback, and we decided a few years ago to basically take a step back and re-envision the screen reader and rewrite it from the ground up. So we released the new version back in early 2017, and we've been continuing to make changes and updates to this new version. So overall, the experience now has just a faster, it's just faster and more consistent based on the way that the screen reader is actually interacting with the given page or app. We've worked hard on simplifying keyboard shortcuts for the screen reader. So we've stripped down the shortcuts so you don't have to hold down quite as many keys now to navigate around, to navigate through jump commands or just common navigation item by item on the screen. We also added a new speech panel. So in this, on the slide right now, at the very top of the screenshot, there is a black panel with white text on it. And that will basically be showing whatever you are listening to on the Chromebook. So whatever Chromebox is speaking aloud. And this can be helpful, especially for any teachers or educators who are working with a student who happens to have earbuds plugged in and they're kind of listening to the screen reader, and you just want to take a quick look at whatever Chromebox is saying. That can be where this panel is useful. We also launched this new menu system, which is also being shown in this screenshot. So with these menus, we wanted to create kind of a one-stop shop for all things Chromebox. So especially for someone who's new to a Chromebook and new to Chromebox, or someone who's new to screen reading as a whole, learning a screen reader can be a big task. So there are lots of different keyboard shortcuts, and this goes for any screen reader essentially. So we wanted to make it so that, in the beginning, especially when you're first learning, you don't have to remember dozens and dozens of different shortcuts to be efficient. But as long as you know the basics and you can remember that to get to this menu panel, it's just search plus period, that can get you really, really far away. So if you press search plus period when Chromebox is on, you'll be defaulted into this jump menu. And this is kind of a list of different jump commands and just how to get the most out of Chromebox, essentially. So if you want to navigate by heading or by button or by link, or all these different sorts of things, you can kind of arrow down the list and hear what those various commands are. So with this whole menu system, you can use the down arrow to go up and down the different given menu items, and you can use the left or right arrow to then go to the next menu over. So there's the speech menu, which gives you options to actually change the pitch and rate and different options like that. There's a whole list of your open tabs. So if you know, oh, I've got one tab open and I just want to quickly navigate to it, you can just open up this tab list and use the arrow keys to navigate through and then jump to that tab. There's a Chromebox menu, which lets you go back to the tutorial or open up the keyboard learning mode, just so that the keyboard learn mode is helpful for anyone who's new to the Chromebook keyboard. What it does is basically opens up a new tab, and then anything you type, it just lets you hear whatever the key is that you're typing. You're not actually inputting text or anything like that, but as you press the given key, you just hear what it is, or if you press a keyboard shortcut, like for example, if I pressed the search key and then the B key, I would hear search, I would hear B, and then I would also hear next button, because that's the keyboard shortcut for next button. There are also a number of other lists here, like the headings list and the links list. Again, these are just helpful for being able to navigate more quickly through complex web pages by pulling up, for example, the whole list of links that are present on the page, and then being able to just arrow through them really quickly. There's also a new set of navigational sounds that play. So we create these sound effects that go behind key parts of the page. So for example, if I'm navigating through by button, or if I'm navigating to a different link, I can hear a little sound effect that plays in the background. And that also, these play in stereo sound. So for example, if I navigate to a link that's on the left side of the page, I'll actually hear that little sound effect on the left side of my left earbud, which just can be helpful, especially if you just get a little bit more of that context of how the page is laid out visually, which can often be missed if you're just navigating linearly item by item with the screen reader. Chromebooks are also compatible with Braille displays. So either if you plug it in through USB, or now you can also connect through Bluetooth. You could use the Braille display to read whatever is being focused on the screen. You can also use the Braille display keyboard to then go ahead and type input, or use different keyboard jump commands to navigate through the screen more efficiently using the Braille display. Great, so that was Chromebox, which is definitely meant more specifically for anyone who has a little bit more significant vision loss, or anyone who is fully blind, to really get the full spoken feedback experience navigating through the screen. But Select to Speak is a bit different. So Select to Speak is more like on-demand text-to-speech. So again, whereas Chromebox will read everything as you navigate, Select to Speak allows you to choose a certain part of the screen or only specific text and hear only that read aloud. So this is the feature that I happen to use most, along with some magnification, just because, again, I have enough vision to keep using the mouse, a large mouse cursor, to control where I'm placing, the different section that I want to actually highlight, and then just choose that section to read aloud. It really helps to reduce eye strain for me, which is really helpful. It also just helps to speed things up. So the way that this works is once you turn it on in accessibility settings, basically there are a few different ways. So you can either hold down the search key and then use the touchpad to either click an item or drag a box around an item and then just hear only that content spoken aloud. Or there's a little icon that now appears when it's on that'll appear in the lower right corner of the screen, kind of at the same place where the dictation icon would appear, down near where the time and the battery levels are. So this icon looks just like little sound waves, and so if you have the feature on, you can either just click or tap, if you're using a touchscreen, tap that icon, and then similarly, again, like use your mouse cursor to drag a box around content, or if you're using your finger on a touchscreen, just drag a box around content. And then again, only that text will be spoken aloud. And in this method where you're dragging a box, you can certainly choose not only text, but also icons or the tabs, or basically you can select anything and it will read to you whatever that item is. The third way to use Select to Speak is for specific text that you have highlighted. So for example, if you were drafting an email, I often will just draft an email and then just want to select only that text. So I'll highlight that text just as if I was going to copy and paste it somewhere else. So I'll highlight it with the mouse cursor, and then you can press the keyboard shortcut Search plus S as in select. And at that point, it'll read only that aloud. So that's just a little bit more precise in that sense, but you can really use whatever method here works best. We've also worked hard to add a lot of additional voices by default, so new voices and languages, so that you can use this either in Chromebox or Select to Speak. But in addition to the default installed voices, we also partnered with a company called Acapella, who is a text-to-speech voice creator. And it's now possible to purchase and use Acapella text-to-speech voices on your Chromebook. And you can purchase these through the Chrome Web Store. And I really love these voices. They give a lot of different variety, and I think it's really cool that Acapella creates children's voices, which have just been proven to resonate a little bit better with younger learners who are, maybe instead of listening to a more adult sounding or more robotic sounding voice, they can listen to a younger sounding child's voice. Awesome. So next up, I'd like to talk a little bit about further customizing the Chromebook experience using apps and extensions. And most of these, I will say, like most of these are not built by Google. They're built by different companies and organizations available through the Chrome Web Store. And this list is certainly not fully comprehensive. This is just a list of some of the examples that we've pulled together from different educators who are finding these to be successful in their classrooms. So first, just a few in the category of reducing clutter and distraction on the screen. Stay focused can be really helpful because it actually allows you to limit the time you spend on each site. Like you're actually able to set time limits, which can be really helpful for anyone who has ADHD or just challenges with remaining focused on the task at hand. Magic Scroll Web Reader is one that helps to strip away clutter and just really help you focus in on the core content on the screen. And there are a number of different extensions that do similar things, but we've heard some positive feedback about this one. AdBlock Plus, similar idea, just helps to remove those ads from the page and just, again, lets you focus in on the core content. Next, some different tools for increasing visibility and reducing eye strain. So Beeline Reader is a really cool extension, which a lot of educators are saying has been really helpful for any students with dyslexia. So what this does is it basically will take a block of text and it color codes it. So it will take the end of the first line of that text and make it the same color as the beginning of the next line. So for example, red will go into red, and then the end of that line will be blue, and the following line will start with blue. So it just kind of helps your eyes to follow where they should go in a block of text. And Beeline also supports a dyslexic-friendly font, just to help to make some of the characters more unique. We also have the Google Color Enhancer, which is helpful for anyone who is colorblind. The way that it works is it lets you specify and choose which type of color blindness you have, and then it helps to filter the colors on the page just for increased visibility. MagX is a simple and free app which will basically use the Chromebook camera or any attached document reader camera that you're using. And what it does is it will basically take whatever is in the camera view. So let's say I had a piece of paper which had really tiny font that I couldn't read. I could put that piece of paper in front of the camera and then use this app to then zoom in on that paper to invert the colors, to change the color scheme. Again, just helping to make something, take something that is in the physical world and make it more visually accessible. All right, next, this category is around improving content interaction. And we've got a few different ones here. So Read and Write by Text Help, has really fantastic, lots of different types of tools. So we've heard a lot of great feedback about Read and Write. So great word prediction, text to speech, kind of similar to what I was showing earlier of what's built into the Chromebook in terms of select to speak, but they've got wonderful text to speech with word by word highlighting, a picture dictionary, voice notes, and more. Co-Writer by Don Johnston. We've heard a lot of different schools using Co-Writer as well, again, for that really excellent word prediction, and then support with grammar and really solid spelling support. So I would definitely recommend checking those out. Dual Lists is an interesting, super simple extension. And all that it really does is help you to rearrange your tabs and your windows in a way that works best for you. So for example, if you have an assignment, so like instructions to actually complete an assignment, and then in another window you have the assignment itself, you could definitely switch back and forth between the tabs frequently, or you could use your mouse cursor to kind of drag and resize the windows to fit both on the screen. But that can take up time and it also can lead to distraction. So what Dual List does is within the Chrome extension area, just at the top right of the browser, the little Dual List extension icon will be there. And if you click that, it'll just allow you to choose the different configuration for your screen. So basically you can say, okay, I want to put the instructions on the 1/3 of the screen to the left, and then I'll fit the assignment on the right side of the screen. So you can have them both just showing there, and then go back to default just with one click. So just really simple interaction with the screen. So the next category is around making videos more engaging, and this is a little bit more so for the educators, but video notes and Edpuzzle they're both really interesting, and they're simple ways to either take notes and annotations on the videos or embed questions into the given video. So this is great for quizzes or just flipped lessons. So just again helping to make that content a little bit more engaging so students can stay focused and continue paying attention. All right, last up here, I just wanted to mention that we have actually been partnering with Cricksoft, and they have now officially launched their Chromebook app called Clicker Communicator, which is an AAC app for augmentative and alternative communication for any students who are nonverbal or have communication challenges and want to use the Chromebook to be able to use this app to either identify words or phrases or sentences to have the Chromebook then speak aloud. And this app is really cool. It was really designed with Chromebooks in mind. You can purchase it through the Chrome Web Store. It works offline as well as online, and it works through integration with Google Drive. And Cricksoft has worked really hard on building out very great, expansive sets of core vocabulary, and you can also highly customize these. So if you're working with anyone using AAC, I would definitely recommend checking out Clicker Communicator. All right, so in this next section, I just wanted to share a few stories that we've heard from different educators just about how they're using the G Suite set of apps like Google Docs and Sheets and Slides, etc., in interesting ways with their students. So to begin, we've heard that some educators are using Drive kind of like the digital backpack. So in the beginning of the year, I thought this was really cool that one teacher was saying that she basically goes through a whole lesson of organization and drive. And just as if it was organizing your physical backpack, she teaches lessons about, okay, color coding and naming conventions and folders and just how to stay organized so that you can actually find what you're looking for quickly. Google Docs has a lot of different types of functionality. I mentioned earlier about voice typing, and we're hearing that a lot of educators are actually recommending that their students use voice typing pretty frequently, especially when they're feeling a little bit stuck in getting an assignment started, and they just say, okay, just start speaking, just start getting the words flowing, and then go from there. Another really interesting story that we had heard was that Google Docs are being used for support in some ways. So there was a story of one student with ADHD who just really needed his questions answered right away, or else he got really distracted. So he was kind of continuously raising his hand and interrupting the class and getting frustrated. And they were thinking about pulling him out of the classroom and shifting him into a different classroom, which wouldn't have been ideal. And instead, they decided to have a student aide, basically sitting in the back of the classroom with a laptop open and a Google Doc open between the two of them. And the student was able to type his questions immediately into the doc as soon as they came into his mind. And then the teaching aide was able to sit there and just in real time respond and give any sort of feedback. So this just allowed the whole class to continue moving as is without the interruptions, but then the student was able to get the support that he needed. And this was just a really interesting story to hear, because it's really just this element of discretion where the aide wasn't even sitting right next to him. You wouldn't even know that he was being supported in that sense, but just thought that was really cool. All right, so Google Slides. So lots of different functionality within Google Slides, most heavily used for presentations like this one today. And with Google Slides, we were actually hearing that some educators are using this for assignments and even for quizzes. So basically for the assignments, we were hearing that, for the task of something like writing an essay, this can be a bit overwhelming for some students, and they don't really know where to start or how to structure it. So we're hearing that some educators are using slides as the template and basically saying, okay, they'll take the heading of the slide. So for example, in this slide where it says slides, and they'll write the prompt in the heading, and then the student will be instructed to add, write their text in the body of the slide. So for example, if it was write me an essay about your summer vacation, maybe the teacher would add the prompt about, okay, let's start with an introductory 2 sentences about your summer. And then the student would write it in the body of the slide. Then on the next slide, they'd say, okay, now write me 3 sentences about X. And then the student would be prompted to write in the body. And then the teacher can also add any sort of additional notes or resources into the speaker notes. And the idea here is that it's really just helping to break down the task, making it a little bit more digestible each step of the way. And then once the student is done, can basically work with them to pull together all of the different content from the different slides and put it into one more cohesive plan. But it really just helps to break down the assignment into different chunks. All right, and then last, we've got Google Forms. And of course, forms can be used for things like surveys or quizzes, but we're actually also hearing forms are being used in the sense of collecting feedback on students. So feedback about how the student is performing or coping in the classroom, perhaps things that are identified in a given student's IEP, and different teachers just want to track progress across different classrooms, teachers, different periods of the year, whether it's in the very beginning, tracking in the middle of the year, and then evaluating the student's end of year progress. So yeah, we've heard a lot of different schools using forms in this capacity as well, and then being able to also share the results with the students' parents or guardians. All right, so now I just want to wrap up with where to learn more. So a lot of different resources for further learning as well as communication and getting in touch with the teams. So to begin with resources, the Google Accessibility site is google.com/accessibility. And this is really our central portal of lots of different resources about all the different types of accessibility products built here at Google. We also have a centralized help center for Google Accessibility. So g.co/help/accessibility will take you to all the different sort of articles across the different product areas about accessibility. We also have a specific Chromebook Help Center, and there's an accessibility section. So if you go to the Help Center of just support.google.com/Chromebook, there will be on that homepage just an accessibility section, and that will lead you to all the different accessibility articles about Chromebooks. We also have a video series which I've created, and there's a link here, but you can also just honestly do a Google search for Chrome and Chrome OS accessibility video series. And there are 18 videos right now, and we're actually about to launch a few new videos just about some of the newer features that I covered today. So this goes into a little bit more detail about how to use the different features and functionalities that are built into every Chromebook. And there are also some videos about using the keyboard to navigate through the Chrome browser across different platforms. There's the Chrome Web Store, which in the section where I spoke about, using different apps and extensions to further customize your experience, this is where you would go to find those different extensions and such. So the Chrome Web Store, there is an accessibility category as well, just to kind of have further inspiration. And then there's a new page, which is at edu.google.com/accessibility. And this is part of the Google for Education website, where we actually just have a lot of new resources about Chromebooks and G Suite accessibility. So I would definitely recommend checking those out. And there's a lot of resources for educators there. When it comes to communication, we've got a few different ways to get in touch. So if you're looking for kind of one-on-one support with an agent, we have this email address to reach out to our support agents, so disability-support@google.com, and that will be kind of that one-on-one support. But if you're looking more for community discussion, just with members of our team, but as well as a lot of other community members, we have these 2 Google groups that are created. So to get to the Google groups, you can go to groups.google.com and then search for these one or both of these groups. So Chromebook-accessibility@googlegroups.com. This one is a little bit more general about all things Chromebook accessibility. Chromevox-discuss, certainly more tailored towards the discussion around the screen reader. So yeah, I would just definitely recommend, if you're interested in joining, please do look these up on Google Groups and request to join, and we'll go ahead and approve you. And this is great for just, again, sending in questions, but also just feedback, how things are going. Our team really does care, and we really do want to know how things are working out for you. So with that, I will happily open up for questions.
Okay, many thanks, Laura. Please fire in with any questions in the chat box if you have any burning issues. That was a really great overview, Laura. Thanks for that, and good in terms of pointing us towards those other extensions and applications. It was new to me, the one about involvement with Cricksoft.
Oh yes, well, it's relatively new, so we were very excited about that partnership, and Cricksoft has just been wonderful to work with. So, and I will mention, if anyone is not using a Chromebook but is using the Chrome browser on other desktop platforms like on Mac or Windows, those extensions that I had mentioned will also work across those different areas. It's more so the built-in features from the beginning of the presentation are specific to Chromebooks.
Okay, so people have to be aware that the keyboard shortcuts are obviously specific to a Chromebook because of the keyboard layout, etc. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Well, you must have done an amazing presentation, because it doesn't look like people are firing in with questions. So I think we might wrap it up there.
Great.
I'm just going to close the room, and thanks again, Laura, for a brilliant webinar.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, and have a great day.
Cheers. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye.